Hi guys, welcome back to NASA's String. So today we'll be learning how to make this monostrap side runch dress. Okay, so if it's something you've been meaning to learn how to make, give this video a thumbs up and keep watching. Let's get started. We start. So I have my paper folded into two. I'll rule line at the top to serve as my starting line and also my shoulder line. All right. Now from that line, I can take my measurements. So the first thing I want to do is to take half of my shoulder measurements. Now my shoulder is 15 divided by 2. I have 7.5. From that end, I'll go down by 1 inch for my shoulder slant, and then I'll make a point there. And from my shoulder slant line, I'm going to mark my armhole line. Okay, that's my armhole length. That is simply your round bust divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches. Okay, mine is 7, and I'm reading a line horizontally and vertically to indicate that point. All right, so for the neckline, I'll be doing a neckline of 3 inches to 3 inches. Okay, that's 3 inches of width to 3 inches of depth, and then I will use my curve rule to make my connection at that point. After connecting that, I'll go ahead and slope my shoulder. Okay, by connecting my shoulder slant into my neck width like so. Then the next thing I want to do is to get my armhole curve. So I'll take the measurement I have around this area, divide it by 2 and mark it down. Then what I have is 3.5, and from that point I'll go in by half of an inch, mark it down. Then on my bust, I'm going to take quarter of my bust measurement, which is 8.5 inches, mark it down, and then use a rule to make my connection like so. Okay, we have it. So go ahead and take our other extensions. Okay, so from the shoulder point also, place your tape this way, and then measure your bust point. All right, and the half length of this. Now because I'll be joining this with the skirt part, I'll add half of an inch at this point. So instead of my exact waist half length, which is 16 inches, I'll mark 16.5 inches would be my joining allowance. I hope you understand that. So I'll go ahead and rule a line at the point I made just now. Okay, so I didn't mark this earlier. I'll mark my underbust line. So my underbust is 13 inches. So you want to ensure you place your tape at the right point, okay? And then I went ahead to rule a line across like so. I'm going to take my dart position because this is going to have a dart, okay? So to do that, from the center front, that's the folded end of this, I'm going to take my bust span. Now the bust span is the distance from one nipple to the other. Mine is 7 inches divided by 2. I have 3.5. So I went ahead to mark that at the bust point, at the under bust, and at the full length. Okay, that's the half length. Then at the bust point, I'll cut down by 1 inch because the darts will not get to the bust. And then I will rule a line connecting my points together like so. After which, at the waist points, okay, the waist area, I'll go in and out by half of an inch on both sides, that's on the left and the right, and then I will use my rule to connect it into more like an arrow mark, all right, so to say, towards the 1 inch I came down from the bust area, right, and I'll just connect my like this. So this is basically how to try that. Okay, so we'll go ahead and put in the circumference of our body. So on the bust area, I'm going to also take quarter of my bust, which is 8.5 inches, and then I'll be adding 1.5 inches of an allowance. Okay, that's like for my stitching allowance. Then on my waist, I'll take quarter of my waist measurement with 7.5, and I'll go ahead to add 1.5 for seam allowance and 1 inch for that, making it 2.5 inches. So I hope you understand that. So no matter the inches you're taking for your dart, ensure you added the back into the allowance, all right? And then I went ahead to make my connections like so, right? I'll go ahead and cut it out. So I want us to note that I'll be using this piece to cut out the front and the back. That's because my zip will be by the side. All right. So on the middle point of my neckline, I'll go down by 2 inches. Now, if you want your bust to be more exposed, you can go down by 2.5 or 3 inches. Okay. And on this other part of the shoulder, I'll go in by 1 inch. Okay. So then I'll connect this with a rule. Like I was saying, if you want your bust to be down, like to come out more, your cleavage to show, then go ahead and take more inches. Okay, it depends, totally depends on how exposed you want the chest area to be. Okay, mine, I just want it to be closed. Okay, so I use 2 inches. You can use two, you can use 2.5 or 3 inches, whatever works for you best. And I just went ahead to blend that point right like that, so that it's not so sharp. So you can give yours a curve at this end, give it a nice design, right? And I went ahead to cut it out. So you can see how this looks like. Okay, it looks nice. So go ahead and cut this out. Like I said, I'll be using this for both the front and the back because my zipper is by the side. All right, so that works so well for me. Okay, so I'll go ahead and cut this out on my fabric. So I'm gonna head to place this on my fabric. Now to cut this on your fabric, ensure your fabric is placed front facing front so that you don't miscut this, and make sure you cut both of them together. I just went ahead to follow my pattern and then cut out exactly what I have on the pattern on my fabric piece. So this is what I have. So I want to mark my dart on this. I went ahead to fold this back into two, then I'll place my pattern paper on it like so. You need to ensure you're placing the right place, okay? So that you can accurately get this. You can see how this is. I'll go ahead and place my pattern paper on it like so, and then make a notch at the point where my dart is meant to sit. All right, so we have it there. So I need to cut a facing for this. I also used my pattern paper to cut out my facing, just simply tracing everything I have, but not exactly the length. Okay, so I just traced out my neckline, my armhole, my shoulder. But for the length, I marked 2 inches downwards. So I want it to be 2 inches long. If you want yours to be longer, you can go ahead and do that. Okay, just use something that will be moderate enough for you. So I went ahead to cut this out. So to work for on our skirt piece, that's the down part of this, I'm gonna head to cut out a fabric of length of 40 inches, okay? And the width is simply your hip circumference plus extra inches, all right? So I have folded two, I have the front and I have the back. Remember, my zip will be by the side, so I don't need a zip allowance for this, okay? So from the center front, I'll measure my waist, which is quarter of my waist, which is 7.5 inches. And then I'll add 1 inch for that, and then 1.5 inch for seam allowance. So you want to use exactly the same seam allowance you have at the top for the skirt so that you don't have one of it bigger than the other. I don't know if you understand. And I'm sorry if you cannot see this clearly because of the color of my chalk. This is actually the only different color I have. All right, so my quarter of my waist is 7.5, and then I added 2.5 inches extra to this, 1 inch for that, and the other for seam allowance. So I'll go ahead and mark my hip point, which is 8 inches, and I'll rule a line across like so. So I'll mark quarter of my hip circumference, which is 10 inches, and I marked it down, and I went ahead to add 1.5 inch. We know our that doesn't get to the hip area, okay? So for the full length of this, we'll use the same measurements we have on the hip, also on the full length. Okay, so I took my measurement, I had 12 inches. I went ahead to mark 12 inches at the full length of this. So I hope you understand. Whatever you get from the hip after taking quarter of your hip measurement and adding your allowance to that, go ahead and take the same measurement for your full length. For myself, quarter of my hip is 10 plus 10 and a half plus 1.5 inches of stitching allowance. That was 12, and I went ahead to mark 12 inches also at the full length. Now this is because this is a drawstring, so it doesn't need to be fitted at that end, it needs to be free. So by the time you runch this up, it's not giving you still have that easy flow for movement, like easy access to movement. And I went ahead to make my connection. Okay, so I hope you understand what I am trying to explain, right? So I just connected everything with a rule like so. Okay, I'm taking my time to explain this very well because the chalk is not so visible, so you understand what I am trying to say. Exactly. So what I'll do is to cut this out so that we can see how this turned out to be. So this is our skirt. I'll go ahead and impute my dart where my dart is going to sit on this. I went ahead to mark it down, and I'll make a notch at that end. Remember, we're adding our darts to this, so just use your nipple to nipple measurement to get your dart. Okay, that's half of it. So for the top part of this, the length of our dart will be 5 inches. The same will be done to the skirt part. That means our dart will be 5 inches at the top and 5 inches at the down. All right, I'll go ahead and impute that later, and then I will also flip this over with the facing. Okay, placing my facing with my fabric, right side of fabric facing right side of facing. I'll go ahead and stitch the neckline. All right, then stitch the armhole area, leaving the sides on stitch and also the shoulder area on stitch. Okay, so we're going to leave this area on stitch. So I've done that. You can see I've added my darts. This is how this turned out to be. Okay, so we want to join our shoulders together. So because our zipper is by the side, we can wear this whatsoever way. I don't know if you understand what I mean by that. You can wear this whatsoever way you want. So we'll place our fabric this way, shoulder to shoulder, right side of fabric to right side of fabric, and then insert your hand through it like so. Bring in the other piece and then arrange this properly. Ensure they are all in synchronization. Ensure they are all aligning properly, and then pin it down throughout. You want to pin this down so that by the time you go to stitch on the machine, it is not pulling out. I hope you got that right. Okay. So go ahead and stitch it down by with half of an inch. So I've done this. So ensure you give this a really good press to give it a relaxed feel. You can see how that looks like. Okay, so go ahead and hem the edges of this with a hemming gum. This is so that by the time you give it a really good press, it feels more relaxed. You don't want any part of this to be puffy, so you want it to be more relaxed. Okay, so before doing that, I'm going to join my skirt piece to this. So I've already gone ahead to that my skirt piece like I said earlier, and I used that length of 5 inches like I said I would. Okay, so what we'll do is to place it this way, front part to front part, okay, to stitch this down. So what you want to do is to align your darts together. So your darts needs to be on the same line from the top down to the skirt part of it. So ensure you align your darts properly and then pin it down. So you know while you're working, you need to have your pins around you so that you can work with it perfectly and accurately. So go ahead and pin it down and use half of an inch to join both of them together, and I'll repeat the same process for the other one. All right, and go ahead and stitch it down. So I've done that. I've also hemmed the edges, the areas where I wanted to hem. You can see how this looks like. It looks quite neat and good. So we want to start stitching the sides of our dress together. So we have to position this together. Now, note that one side of the dress has a runch while the other side has a zipper. Now, on the side where the shoulder is, that is the area where our zipper will sit, and the other area without the shoulder, it's where the runch will be. I hope you got that right. So on the part where we have our shoulder, we're going to have the zip at the top, and then on the other area we're going to have the runch at the down. So to do this, you have to ensure you properly arrange your fabrics for them to be meeting at the accurate part. Okay. So I'll go ahead and take the measurement of where I want my zip to be, like where I want my zip to stop. I'm using my zip to take this measurement so that I will have enough. Okay, I don't want to be stranded, and I'm using a very tiny zip for this. Okay, I don't want one with a big head, so I'll go ahead and take the measurements where I want this to be, and then I will make a mark there. Okay, so I'm using a yellow chalk now, so I hope it's more visible. Then from that end, I'm going to mark the seam allowance I added 1.5 inch. I'll mark it from that point where my zipper will stop to the full length of my dress, and I'll make a connection, right? So that simply means my zip will be in front, and I'll go ahead and stitch the other part of it. As I will stitch the down and leave the top part open for where I'll fix my zip. Then on the other side where I will have my runch, I'll take the measurement of how long or how open I want my slit to be. So from the down part of this, I took the length of my slit. That means that part will be open while the other part, that's the top part, will be closed. So I hope you understand. Okay, I'm just trying to give a very good explanation. So go ahead and take how long. Now note that the upper you go from the down, it means your slit will be more open. The lower you go, it means your slit will be closed. So from that point, I also measured my 1.5 inch of stitching allowance from the point of the beginning of my slit to the top parts of this. Okay, so just watch this properly. You will definitely get what I am trying to explain. So what I'll do now is to stitch the top part of this to the point where my slit will end, and then stitch the other part where my zip will stop to the end. So I hope you got what I'm trying to explain. All right. I don't know what other way to explain this rightly. All right. But I hope I did a good explanation for you to understand that. So just stitch from this part. I've done that. So this is what we have. You can see this is where my zip is. I've fixed my zip already, and this other end is closed. Now you have to put your zip following the curve around the body. Ensure you take the measurement, the 1.5 inch allowance or whatever allowance you're adding for yours. Ensure you take that. All right. Ensure you take that. So the next thing we want to do is to create a tunnel for where our rope will pass through. So you need to create a tunnel for it. Now, the thing is, the rope or the runch part of this starts from the half length, which is the waist point, to the full length or wherever you want your dress to end. Okay. But I'll be making a channel from the beginning of the dress. That's from where I have the no shoulder area. I'll make a channel, create a channel to the full length of this by folding in 1/2 inch and then folding 1 inch. Remember, I have 1.5 inch there. Then before doing that, I'm gonna head to cut out ropes or ropes I'll be using for this. Okay, so it measures 1 inch in width and the length is 40 inches. So now for yours, you can decide to make it longer, but ensure you have enough that even when it is not runched, your rope is not lost inside. Okay, and I'll go ahead and stitch it down. All right, so you need two of this to work with. Ensure you cut two so that you have enough. So I've done that. I've created the channel for my runch for my rope rather, you will see the casing like this. Now I'm working with a matching fabric, and this is my rope after I flipped it over to the right side. So what you want to do is to close one part of this. Okay, so ensure one part of your rope is closed while the other end is open. So from the waist area, since I've gone ahead to create a channel to the point where I have my slit opening, that's where my slit is starting from, I will just make a little opening at that point, right? So you want to ensure you're not cutting through your fabric to the front, right? You don't want to do this all over again. So I just went ahead to make little openings at both ends for the two parts of my channel, and I'm using my safety pin to pass this through. Now the parts where the for your rope, the part where you didn't close is the part that's going to go inside. That's the rough edge area. Is where you're meant to put in the waist area, because you'll be stitching this at the end of the day. All right. So you want to ensure your work is neat, it's clean at the end of the day. Okay. So I just went ahead to pass this through, and I will use my pin to hold it down at that area so that it doesn't fall out before I get to my sewing machine. And I'll repeat the same process for my second rope. So like I said, you want to have enough rope, so that you want to have like a long rope, enough rope, so that by the time you runch this up, it is not it will be okay. And when it is not runched, your rope will not be lost inside. Okay, so you want to have moderate, like I said. So I'll just go ahead and pass this through properly, pin it accurately, ensure they're properly pinned so that they don't move. And then the next thing we'll do is go ahead and run a stitch at that point. Then we go ahead and hem the edge of our dress. Okay, that's by folding half of an inch in and then folding another half of an inch. So I've done that. You can see the final look of our dress. This dress is quite pretty. I actually like the choice of fabric I used. I'm sorry because it's quite colorful and you could not see like little details on it. All right, so I hope you enjoyed watching this video. I hope you'll be trying to make your own monostrap drawstring dress. Okay, I hope I got the name of this dress correctly. I hope you're trying to make this. I think it's a sexy, classy outfit you can wear for any occasion. Okay, not any occasion though, but you can wear out and look good. All right, so let me know in the comment section if you're trying to make yours, and if you found this video helpful. Don't forget to subscribe if you're yet to subscribe to the channel, and please give this video a thumbs up, okay, and share so that others can enjoy for this. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.